and values.
It's a story.
It's about the clash of beliefs and values. Now, the negative, the antagonist, is against the protagonist because of his own beliefs. The protagonist is fighting against the antagonist because he holds a certain belief. Don't forget what I said earlier. The cause of the conflict is because this one represents a certain point of view. For instance, if the protagonist is arrogant and he believes he should have everything, he's proud, he will believe the world is about him. He will be it's supposed to be me. I come first. At some point, he needs to believe that others matter, right? Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the story, like I said earlier, he must hold the same belief as the antagonist. Antagonist believes, I come first. I take it before any person. There's a part of this country that believes that they own us, they own this country. Sometimes they say things that you just wonder, they know that nothing will happen. That's their point of view. The opposite point of okay, let us assume that they are the protagonists. The opposite point of view is either, yes, so it's true, we are your slaves. You understand? But there comes a point, or they to say, no, we are number one. It's either of those two. But there comes a point one of them must change their point of view. Usually, it is the protagonist who is believing wrongly at the beginning, who believes that everything, the world is about him, he comes first and everything is selfish, who believes that women should go talk to him, who believes in mistreating women, that's second class. And somewhere along the line, the romantic interest usually, who is called the impact character, will make him change his point of view and believe, no, women matter, other people matter too. Mm-hmm. But the antagonist is still believing that no,
women don't
matter. So now the point they put, this belief is a belief, it's a value. This selfishness is a value. This women don't matter is a value, it's a belief. Opposite what the protagonist believes. That is what story is. But this story, this viewpoint must illustrate the thing. Let me come to this. If we believe that love must sacrifice, if that's the thing, love lives because love sacrifices for the other. We must have somebody who believes that love must not make sacrifices to be loved. This assumes the wife. And if maybe the man is sick, and the woman is transferred to Abuja, and she has the choice, because she knows leaving this man behind alone, anything can happen to him, he can lose his life. But he has a career he has built over the years. Maybe the man at some point had owned, whatever, anything of value in the woman's life. So this man has the choice to choose either to go to Abuja and face her career that has put in so much, or stay back and nurse this man to health. Now, let's imagine she's the lead character in this story. It's not a love story now. And she says, no, love must not always sacrifice. And we come out with nothing. I could lose this man and lose my job at the same time. What if I stay and it passes on and I've lost my job? That is a point of view, that love must not always sacrifice. And the man, or whoever is behind the man, says, love must make sacrifices. The struggle, the conflict that is going to happen in that family is going to be between these opposing viewpoints. To illustrate our theme, our moral premise, that love must make sacrifices. Love thrives or survives or lives on sacrifices. So you have to create characters who want to prove this thing wrong, and the other protagonists who want to prove this thing right. And they clash. That's what story is about. Every story is about that.
I want to say something. There was this Kadri film I watched.
Why don't you write answer question?
What really happened there was that she was a poor attendant in a store. And this guy, an arrogant guy, he has his way, even in his family, being the only son. He talks to any of their mates anyhow. So he forgot his phone, his iPhone, in a supermarket where he went when he was paying. So after all said and done, they went tracking the phone. So this girl now closed. The person that owns the phone, that's the root cadre, was not around. That's okay. Let me take this phone home, charge it, and call the person that owns the phone. Lo and behold, they've been looking for the phone since, until when the phone was charged. So she now was about calling. Call came in. Now said, who am I talking to? You are the thief. We are the come. They now traced to Ruth Cadre's house. Beat the hell out of her head. That one went apart. So after that said and done, in their own house, the first maid in that house has been sent away because the so-called arrogant guy claimed that the housemaid stole his gold chain. So the first maid has gone. So they are now looking for another maid. Just because Ruth Cadre did not go to work for some days and police came to pick her up because they said the lady allegation that she stole the phone. Then she was now jobless, looking for a job. Fortunately and unfortunately, that same arrogant guy's house was where they accepted her. So the guy keep on fleeing his one day nobody was at home. Now say you don't have morals. You are not humble. Now I held him, beat the hair out of his head. Beat him very well. So when the parents came back, they saw change. Because they were asking him, what happened to you? He said nothing. You could not see the maid beat him now. Because the girl now, imbibed fear into him. So he became a person that would wash plates, finish eating, clear his plates to the kitchen. From there, he started learning. He now went to the parents, said, you guys never treated me with love. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Never treated me with love. You made me to become arrogant. You never gave me any culture, nothing.
Any home training,
nothing. Now that you want the good, you want to reap where you did not sow, and not what not.
I get it. Beautiful. Now, but the danger is this. The danger is, I hope the change was not abrupt. That's what must not happen.
No, they finally got married with Ruth Cadre.
What I mean is this. If a character holds a particular point of view, know that I said sometimes it is because of what happened in the past when that person was a child. It didn't just happen overnight that this person becomes arrogant. And this thing has been in this person's psyche for so long. This person will not change overnight. You understand? So if they give you a script and you see a character behave in a particular way from the beginning of the story, and then suddenly it changes, so one thing happens and the character changes, that is bad storytelling. Yes. There is nobody who changes like that. Automatically. Habits don't change like that. I have seen that somebody gave me a script he writes. That was the very first thing I noticed. Because maybe the writer heard somewhere that the character must change. So the character was doing all sort of things, and then one day he met somebody and the person preached and came back home a changed person. Okay. I said, no, it doesn't happen. Not to me, not to anybody in the world, I know. Okay. The character that you have lived with for many years, even when you change, you become conscious and you want to change, you change. Do something different today. Tomorrow you should go back.
Yes.
Your old ways.
It's a struggle.
Yes.
It's a struggle.
That's why God bless you. That's why you always see in log lines. Character A, who does struggles to overcome
this
combat or battles. It is with a struggle, they choose. It's a struggle, it's a fight. I was coming to that, but quickly let me do this or that. Because if I had said this, it would have touched some of these things. Now, in a screenplay, I want to rush through this. You have often, like I said, nothing is carved in stone.
Yes.
When you become proficient, you can, change whatever you want to change. You have 3-act structure. There are things that they have 4 acts. So the basic is 3-act structure. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, which corresponds to Aristotle's beginning, middle, and end. And usually, Act 1 is usually like a quarter, 25% of the story. Act 2, 60% of the story. Act 3, 25% of the story. Now, in Act 1, You are going to take some of those story elements. Usually you open with what they call the opening image, the hook, or opening image. Something about the opening image I will tell you quickly. One, the opening image is symbolic. It's like a representative of the entire idea of the story. It's not just any picture that catches the eye, that attracts, because it's called a hook. It must come out of the story, the controlling idea, the theme, or the main conflict of the story. If it is a love story, there has to be something about, the love thing at the beginning. If it is an action movie, usually, sometimes you see the protagonist, dusting a gun or taking a gun apart, putting it together, shooting. It gives you an idea of one, the genre, the kind of story you are going to watch, and the kind of conflict you are going to see in Act 2. It represents the main tension in the story. The opening picture you see is not random. It has to do with the main conflict. It has to represent. It could be a symbol. It could be a heart that represents something, the main conflict in the story. I could take a whole long time to explain this. Now, that's one. Two, the opening image in a good story must be a direct opposite of the last thing you see in the movie. It shows something has changed. It shows a new beginning. It shows a transition. It shows a transformation. If you open with two people, a man and wife fighting, you could end with them making peace, embracing or kissing.
Kissing, especially.
I mean, that's what we like. if you open with a death, negative, end with either a newborn or something, resurrection, something positive. So all you have to ask is, if this is a positive, a thing of joy, what is the negative of this? That should be your last image, your last picture, or something that portrays, signifies, or symbolizes that. It shows a lot of things. It shows, it's what we call framing. It frames your story. It shows the writer. Honestly, when I pick up a script, I read the last scene. Then I go to read scene 1, 2, and then 2, 3. If I don't see the correlation, directly or indirectly, I won't say it's a bad script yet. I will know the kind of writer I am dealing with. He's informed, but not informed to this level yet.
You get Panadol already.
You understand? Not informed to this level yet. What I'm telling you is very significant in story. But you will rarely see it in our local movies. You see it mostly in foreign movies. But even then, don't be like me. Years back, I used to think that white people make bad films. When you go to my early years, until I really got to know better. Sometimes I still criticize their movies. They're bad movies too. They make bad movies too. So that is the opening hook. There's a lot I could say about the opening hook, but there's no time. The next important thing, the next important stage in Act 1 is called the inciting incident. Have you heard of that before? Inciting incident. You have never heard of that. Has any one of you acted in a movie before?
Yeah.
In movies before? You've acted? Yeah. You've done television program before? And you've never heard of inciting incident? You've not been reading, you've not been studying, you've not been taking your job seriously.
There's another name.
The other name is call to action.
Call to action.
The other name is disturbance of the
character.
Disturbance of the whole world.
Of the
ordinary world.
Of the ordinary world.
Now, I told you something about the flaw, the weakness, the character's weakness, right? The inciting incident is the event that kickstarts the real story. But usually people do random selection of that event and then follow up later. They know what they want to do. But a careful writer, an informed writer, must select an event, something that needles the character's flaw. It is like telling the character, yeah, that's your flaw, bring it and come. Time to change it. Okay. Something that happens must touch that weakness, that need. You understand? This thing is inviting him on a journey of change, of transformation, which is what story is about, like we have always said. Story is about journey of transformation. of changing from negative to positive, and maybe from even positive to negative. Maybe it's about change to get away. Let me cite an instance, one from the mundane world and one from the story. This is Project 100, and for some time now, you've not been, after your last movie, you've not done anything. That's the ordinary world, the normal, you have been going about. So this is the life of Project 100. One day, Femi put up an audition notice, or informing you that there will be this kind of interaction. That notice is an exciting incident that brings you out. The very first step of a journey of movie making. You are going to make a movie. You understand? So an exciting incident is like that, something that draws out, something that disturbs the ordinary world, the world of limbo, the world of nothing. In the first act usually starts with, I have got away from that, starting with the protagonist just living his normal daily life, going to work, you have to go girlfriend, family life, calm, until the exciting incident happens and then throws his world upside down. That is the normal way movies should start.
Foreign movies.
Even the kind of movies, it's a lot. I see even someone who go as far as seeing somebody wake up from sleep. I find that boring. Now, but because the attention span of the present generation is very short, I usually look for a way of starting with action. Even when I'm going to come back to that normal family life, I usually start with action. Something must happen, so that to hook the
audience,
viewers.
I will know what happened.
Yes. So and I can now go back to the normal ordinary world before it's starting incident. So, but usually the beginning of Act 1, the book and everything is what they call normal world. Act 1 is called normal world. That is his normal daily life. In that normal world, what you are going doesn't mean that there's nothing happens. What you are going to show a lot from the very first scene is how he's living in what they call his identity. How he's living this bad life, this false life, this fake life. Okay? We need to see that so that when the change comes, we know that there is a change. Or when the call to action comes, we know what it's all about. So this person who feels that, who is a very proud person, one day at work, he doesn't have any respect for the wife, doesn't care, has not made any sacrifice, has not made any contribution to the wife's life. One day at work, he's been treating women badly, we see him treat the woman at work and blah, blah, blah. And on his way back, he has a headache. And he stops by the doctor's office and he's told he's sick. But he has to do something very urgent. That doctor's report is what? An inciting incident. And you can see, it's going to touch that you are not God. You can be sick. And somebody is going to look after you. You might need, and in fact, in the hospital, while the doctor is talking to you, say, maybe you have to come in and, why not come with madam? Or maybe madam is the person who's going to drain the blood, or something. So it begins to touch something in him. He doesn't do that for madam.
So how am I going to talk to him?
Yeah. So
internal conflict.
Inciting incident start. So he probably would, okay, don't worry, madam is busy and something. He will try to avoid, that's refusing the call. They call it refusing the call. You may decide not to refuse the call, but you can refuse the call. You can decide to go to another doctor. Or you can decide to go abroad.
No other way I can get
Yes, you can decide to go abroad because you have the money. But when he goes abroad and he's terminal and you have to have somebody with him and blah blah blah, or he doesn't have the money to afford the medical treatment overseas, he has to come back home. He needs somebody who can no longer afford to ignore
the wife.
So he comes to what we call the turning point. Maybe he collapses one day at home.
And the wife gives him slap. If you collapse,
So
there you go
at
collapse.
the point he collapses one day at home, maybe the beginning of very serious illness. That is what we call the Act 1 turning point. So this story should not be flat, it should build. The first thing that happens, the first thing that God bless. Thank you. And when I have seminars that I used to have tray of chocolate or stuff, when somebody makes such a remark, I allow the person. You do well.
I know. Money not too deep.
No, we not encourage him. It's only a prayer. Nothing for.
So the sequence should build, should rise. That's why the story should start with small incidents. The next scene, something bigger. So it should escalate. So the first turning point is where the man can no longer say no.
Hmm.
You know, in the Titanic, the boat don't burst. Water don't
enter.
You know. Yes. Going to America, look, this guy has run out of money. You know. So that is the first turning point. It's when you go into what they call Act 2. The reverse, it has reversed your fortune. The positive thing that was happening to you has completely reversed. But if it is the opposite side, the bad things will reverse. So it's just a turning point where the protagonist, negative or positive, turns negative. If you have been following what you have been saying from the beginning, everything turns negative again. So he has no excuse now. You cannot say no, except you can just stay back and die.
I'm done.
So he has to go on the journey of transformation.
That he likes to, yes.
Okay. Now, he might not, at this point, he still does not realize his weakness.
Yes.
But he just knows that something is not right. Sickness kicks in. He can still afford to go to work from time to time, you know, take care of things. Until the next major turning point is it's called the midpoint. This point is usually halfway down the story. If the story is 100 pages, usually we find it around page 50 or so. But nothing is written in stone, and sometimes it doesn't fall much, so we don't always fall there. And sometimes 2-3 pages later or before. This is called the midpoint. The midpoint divides. I said that the Act 2 is 60%. So the midpoint divides Act 2 into 2 equal halves of 30-30. This is very important point. They also call it the moment of truth. Another name for this is called the moment of truth. The moment of truth is that this character has been living a lie all his life. That he is the, you know, it's the best thing to happen after the sliced bread. It's a real McCall. You know, nobody matters but me. A woman is there to serve a man. Something must happen here at this point that will change that viewpoint. He comes to realize how he has been living the false life. Another example is this. Like the character in my story. This young woman who feels she is worthless. You know, she avoids people, cannot sing or speak in public. There comes a point where she manages, you know, she finds home with another woman. They manage to put money together and enter for a reality show where groups are allowed to perform. People come together to back her up and all of that, and this is a make or break moment in her life. You know, she has this dance troupe with her, fantastic. So they get there on stage, the dancers come, and there's ovation all around everybody. And this man who will eventually rape her is the judge. This man that you know is the judge there. So everybody is waiting for her. So she comes up to the stage and she goes like a statue. She can't touch, she can't sing, she can't make her. This is the opportunity she has been waiting for in life. Everybody thought and believed she was going to win. No, not the judge. She cannot sing. Her stage fright.
Wow.
She's like rigor mortis. Don't enter.
Oh.
You understand? Now, when she loses this opportunity, she goes back. She says, either I go back home as a shoemaker that I was, or I get rid of this. This is the moment of truth. She realizes that, look, something, what is it? What's responsible? Even a Nigerian girl, you go see pastor.
Yes, now. You must drop offering first, though.
At this point, that you have to buy olive oil.
Drop offering, very
You understand?
important.
The midpoint is called the moment of truth. You come to know. What you begin, something tells you it's about you. There's something wrong about you. There's something you are not doing right. You look down on yourself. You don't have self-confidence. You suffer self-doubt. And you begin to ask, you wonder, why do I suffer self-doubt? And for the very first time, you think you want to do something about it. You have come to the moment of truth. At the half point, something must happen that reverses the character's fortune. Don't forget, two things happen here. It reverses the character's fortune. She has built up, she's been losing. At this point, she is at the threshold of success. You know, everything is working for her. Then she loses it because of her belief, her misbelief. The lie she has been telling herself that I'm not good because my father doesn't want me. So I'm not good enough. She has been living with this lie. People will laugh at me. People will think I'm not good enough. They won't accept me. That's a belief. And the black man might not believe that is a serious thing. So, her fortune is reversed. And then she realizes truth. Very important. Midpoint is very important. It is at this point, all along, your character will be doing what they call a reactionary leader. He only reacts to the attacks of the protagonist, of the antagonist. When the antagonist attacks, that he will take action to avoid or fight back.
Yes.
But from this point, after the moment of truth, the rubber meets the highway. This is where he goes gaga. He goes on the offensive. He's the one, your character is now the one who goes out to fight his or her demons. Takes on the antagonist. You understand? As from midpoint. So that is where the change thing begins. You begin to realize, you begin to walk. Then along the line, something will happen and you will now fall back to the old ways. The next stage is called the Act 2 turning point. Don't forget, we said we started from inciting the hook, opening hook or opening image. The inciting incidents, we've come to the first act turning point, then the midpoint, the moment of truth. After the moment of truth, he's now proactive, goes on the offensive. So many things happen in between because of the nature of I cannot go into. So the next major turning point is called the Act 2 turning point.
Okay.
You know, where he loses, that all hope is gone. It is also called the dark night of the soul, or all is lost moment. All is lost moment, or the dark night of the soul. Very important. As an actor, this is where it comes in. At the beginning, I told you that knowing about story and screenplay is not only the place of the writer, the director, the actor. After the writer, the next person should be a master of story and screenplay understanding is the actor. Because the way you act in act one is different from your attitude in act 2. The way you act after midpoint should be completely different. Let me start from Act 1 turning point. You see this world, the Act 2 turning world is like the underworld. This is the way storytelling goes spiritual. It represents our psyche. The world of Act 2 represents our psyche. It is where this guy in coming to America has lost his princehood or everything about. Nobody knows him in this place, in this town. He's just an ordinary person. He is a cleaner. Just like we all are in the spirit world, nobody, in the spirit world, nobody is king, nobody is God, nobody is man, nobody is woman. We are all, equal. You have to find out. It is your good now that can speak for you. It is it's like spirit world. Act 2 is like spirit world. Action, so many things change. Then you get to midpoint, it goes mad. You are now desperate. You have now realized your mistake, your fault, what has been holding you back. It's like somebody telling you that this person made you progress in life, and you find it's true, and you know, and the person even says yes, I mean.
I will kill her now.
That's what, yeah. That's
I will first beat her.
That is what the midpoint does to the actor. So, you're gonna have it, man. So, as an actor, if you look at some of these Marvel stories, when I watched them, I said a Nigerian director that would realize this is fantastic. At the midpoint, you will see sometimes the actor's countenance will change. He will become focused. It's like, okay. The eyes, you see a good director goes for the close-up and that realization. It's called self-realization in the spiritual. It's called self-realization in story 2 is self-realization. You have realized who you are. What has been holding you back? What's your problem? What's your truth? Now, you are going to miss a point there. There are a lot of us sitting down here who don't know their truth.
Who don't know
Their truth. What's
their
your
truth?
Yes. What's your truth in life? Stories tell us about ourselves. There are correlations between things in stories and elements because these things were actually taken from people's lives. The ancient people took these things, and today the white man has refined these things. Because we use stories to do what? To learn how to live our lives. What's your truth? If a character in the story comes to the moment of truth and realizes this is the truth about my upbringing, my life, my parentage that has been militating against me, I got to do something about it. You, what is holding you back as a human being? Because something is holding a lot of us back. It doesn't matter how you could be a multi-millionaire, but you have a problem of anger and temper. Yes, it could affect your marriage, your relationship with your children, so many things. You see very rich people who don't have good family relationship. Very rich. Have a family, a relation. Very rich, really, really rich. The 2 wives, they live differently from him. The children live differently. They hardly see. In fact, one of them, when the mother died, I was the one who told him that the mama died last week. Yeah, you know. Nobody came to call the other person and tell him, oh, this one you hear and keep quiet. So they are ready. Yes. The man did not know what was his problem. He probably thought it was money. He spent all his life trying to make money and got rich. He died a miserable death. Because the children were fighting, throwing punches at his funeral. Very respectable man he thought he was.
Punches at the
What is
funeral.
your truth?
That's even the title. I fight on your
A
grave.
lot of-
Yes, I fight on your grave.
So, at this point, that man, there must have been a point in that man's life that he encountered the truth but did not take it seriously. We all do. We all do. God, somehow, the forces will always bring you to instances, either in a relationship, usually in a relationship, that will show you how you get temper problem. You do the cause, you do the abuse, cut it down. So, at the midpoints, the acting will change. If you read your script and you are playing the impact character or whatever character, at that point, the attitude, do you know that every other character in the story is an aspect of the main character's life? Yes. Yes. It's like, yes, offshoots of it. So what affects him at the midpoint affects everybody because they are all him. Yes. And that's our relationship with God. They're all him. So, he changes. Check your story. What happens? Did the scriptwriter treat the midpoint well? After that, what happens? Can you even tell where is the midpoint in the story? Can you tell where is the first turning point? Can you tell where is the inciting incident? Can you tell the second turning point? How do you tell the second turning point? All is lost moments. It's like hopeless. The man says, let me go home and die. That nice, that means that I have 6 days to live, 1 month to live. Let me go and put my house in order. All is lost. And the wife has gone off to Abuja. So they tell you are going to die, except you have somebody to take care of you, or this, So no, let me go and die. And at the back of his mind, he feels, okay, maybe that woman will have picture of me when he goes. And he gets back home, the woman maybe, the woman don't go to Abuja, that has been delayed. So everything is cut off. What does it do? This point always leads to what we call the aha moment. AHA moment. Aha moment. The aha moment. The aha moment means, so, yes, point of
Realization.
Where is the tray of chocolate?
It's coming. We are lowering it.
Yes. Point of realization.
Yes.
And it is not far from the climax, from the end of the story. So after this point, the man was the final change. Don't forget that the child started it after the midpoint, but he has been going back and forth, you know. So at this point, the lead character, I'm still using the lead character, but it affects all the major characters in the story because of time. So at this point, he realizes, and if he doesn't change here, he's going to die. Either physically or metaphorically or be damned. So it gets to the next point is the climax of the story. After the climax of the story is the final encounter between the negative force and the positive force. If you write a script or somebody gives you a script and you look at the climax and you do not see the antagonist and the protagonist meet for the final battle, that story is faulty. I have seen a lot of that. Because the writer doesn't know. He just feels that it's the high point of action. No. These two forces must meet. These 2 points of view must meet. We must see that this man has changed his point of view. And he's going to prove to the antagonist that this point of view that you are holding, that I shared with you at the beginning, and I have changed my mind about it, is wrong. Now, you are not obliged. This is where the writers, this is the writer's scene. This is where the writers, we are going to know the meaning of the story. This is where the writers will take his position. Whoever wins is the story that the writer wants to tell. If he wants the force of darkness, or the negative force to win, you want to show that, yes, this is what to obtain. A woman should not sacrifice her life, her career for love. Okay? If the man wins and the woman submits and succumbs, it shows that somebody should. So they must meet. And usually, it must not be in a town, in a big town. Usually, a good climax must be in a small space. Either a room, or a stadium, or a small place. Even battlefields, when they fight a battlefield, it is usually about a place. It doesn't have to be just anywhere. You must bring them to, an enclosed or almost enclosed place so that we feel the tension. Imagine bringing Tinubu and Peter Obi now, and all the supporters of Tinubu in the same room to talk about the last election. Sparks will fly, right? And that's what we love to see in stories. We still want to see the sparks fly. So that is what the climax is. The climax is when we see which force will triumph over which point of view, which point of the thematic polarity will win, which one will succumb. That is what the writer set out to show to see. That is all that fine houses, sets, all the big cars that they drove in the movie, all, if they don't lead to this argument, it's wrong. They shouldn't have been in the story. They shouldn't have been in the story. I'm not saying they should appear here, but if they did not make points that culminate at this point, then they were useless. If the scene that you wrote or you read in scene 1 did not lead to this point, something wrong. The climax reflects the climax reflects the inciting incident. The inciting incident is parallel to the climax. Because, thank God I remember to mention this. At the climax, the action scene in the climax, the inciting incident, poses a question. It could be a direct question or implied. Will the boy and girl actually come to live together as lovers? Will this man end up, marrying the woman? Will this man succeed in building the house? That is that call to action. That question is answered at the climax. That question that was asked at the inciting incident. The scene at the inciting incident must pose a question. Either it takes the actual form of a question or it is implied. That is why they call it dramatic question. So you ask, what is the dramatic question of this story?
Hey.
Okay, so the answer to that question is answered at where? The climax. The man ends up marrying the woman, or the woman succumbs and forgives the man and takes his guy back. The guy succeeds in building the house. What's his name now? Agrees with the father, returns to the father succumbs, and the prince goes back to marry, to marry the girl. After the climax, we have just 1 or 2, 3 scenes. Very important. We call it the resolution or denouement. Resolution or denouement. Now we have seen the man change from midpoint of the story. We have seen the aha moment. We have seen the climax. To make sure that not be fake, we must see this man live the new life. We must see this protagonist live the new life. We must see this woman live the new life. You understand what I mean? Now that he's a changed person, now that he has transformed, let him demonstrate to us. Say this, all this will do the camera trick. So 1 or 2 more scenes, we see them hand in hand together as husband and wife, and then you run into a colleague. What's the matter? The weekend is over. Are you not in Nollywood? No. I resigned that job. Okay? And we see them together, maybe in a restaurant or whatever. Depending on what we saw at the opening scene, we must see the opposite of that at the last scene. And that is the end of the story. We are convinced, we believe that there is a change, there is a transformation. That's what story is. That's what story is. Every story in the world. The only difference could be that he might refuse to change. Like Macbeth, and pay with his life. And we learn, we know why. Stubborn, arrogant, drunk, power, and perishes. So we learn. It's okay. So it's best.
Okay, sir, please. My question is, how do we use the inciting incident with the dramatic question from the beginning? Because I learned that from the beginning, there should be log line and dramatic question. So now I'm thinking the dramatic question, the inciting incident and log line, maybe there's something.
No, for a log line, it has nothing to do with it. A log line is it's like a summary of this story reduced to 1 sentence.
Okay.
You understand? Your story, concept. Yes, in one. It's a different thing. And maybe some other day we happen to meet, we'll talk about log line. Don't worry yourself about that. Just know the basics of story first.
Of story.
Now, the log line is the premise of the story that you summarize, not even the moral, it's the premise of your story that you summarize in 1 sentence. It's so that you can. It's for marketing purpose. You want somebody to sponsor your movie, and that person will not sit down to read. That's why they call it elevator pitch. You enter a lift and you turn around and you say, who is the biggest producer now in Nollywood? Who finances movies?
Femi Durojaiye.
Okay now.
So you get into a lift at a hotel and I have this story. What is it about? It's a young girl who the father rejected. Yeah, the father rejected, and he comes to city to seek a fortune and is raped and robbed of his work. Kind of thing like that. You understand? That's a log line. You use it to pitch, summarize the story. If you are writing a proposal, I'll be very fast in writing because you can write synopsis. In fact, a lot of big-time executives in Hollywood want to read the log line and are not interested with us because they have a lot of things to read. That's why they call it elevator pitch. So don't worry your head about that. So, but the dramatic question and the inciting incident is, for instance, in a romantic story, you see a young woman who probably is out of the league of a young man.
So why don't you sit down?
I enjoy it like this. Yeah, I have fun when I talk stories. So when they come together, and you know that this guy has intention, of seeking this girl's friendship. But something is not, this girl is out of his league. You understand? But there is something she likes about him. And so when they get talking, something that happens at the inciting incident must make us ask the question, will they end up together? Will they not? The climax must show them getting together or not. Will this man be able to get the wife back from Abuja to nurse him, or will he not? That question must be posed at the inciting incident. At the climax, we must see the wife come back to him or not, or walk out on him and he either dies or whatever. You understand? So it doesn't mean that in a dialogue line you have to ask this question. You could, but no. You craft it in such a way that the viewer wonder about this. You know, a good writer should
go catch this babe, then go marry.
Putting them in suspense.
You know, you have said so many things. And sometimes in trying to follow, there are
you get thrown.
Yeah, there's some that you don't just miss one little thing and it now begins to confuse. Can you just please take us back to that aha moment?
Okay, the aha moment.
Yes.
The aha moment, like you rightly named, is a moment of realization. It is a moment of introspection where the protagonist sits down, something happens, it feels something happens at all is lost moment.
Yes.
You know, and he feels his world has crumbled, there's no way, but the viewer feels there's no way this man can get it back together.
He can't.
You know.
Rich man don't take the babe.
So he comes back and wonders where do I go from here? What next? You know, what next? And yes, and one last dash. And that thing he's going to do is something that he has never done. You understand? Takes his phone and calls the wife. For the very first time since the wife was transferred to Abuja. You know, hello mommy, or whatever he calls. And the wife is surprised. This man never called me.
Devil man.
And begin to have the job, blah, 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 blah.
Eh?
Okay. I just wanted to check up with you. You know, if you didn't tell him come, they just want to check up with you. Right? Even if I'm going to die, let me make peace with my wife, make peace with my family. Call the daughter or any other son that has been on the mother's side. I say, sorry, I just spoke with your mommy. I'm sorry. Please, Daddy, how are you doing? Well, my life is in the hand of God. Could be the daughter now would call the wife and say, Mommy, Daddy called you. So what did you say? I just wanted to check up with you. You know, and begin to make, and maybe that is what will bring the wife to this meeting at the climax. But he's going to do what he has never done. Some people call this a leap of faith. Have you ever heard of that word?
Where go here?
In storytelling.
I mean, in storytelling.
In storytelling, it's called a leap of faith. You do what you have never done so far to demonstrate.
Can we say it's also a moment of reconciliation?
Yeah, the moment of reconciliation, if you want to call it that, will actually be at the climax. The aha moment is when, after the aha moment, you take a leap of faith. A leap of faith is that you do this thing you are doing is not actually, you are not doing it because you want to change or want to live to succeed. You want to do it because it is the right thing to do.
If you have a Ashewo spirit, you drop it at that time.
You do it because it is the right thing to do. At this point, usually, oh God, I wish I was doing a master class, not people who are coming into study work for the first time. At this point, usually, the protagonist is faced with either two bad, two negative choices, or two positive choices that cannot stay together. You have to choose one. Any which one he chooses, he fails. That is where he's no, story is beautiful. Story is a beautiful thing. People who come, no be story. No, story no be story. Story no be story.
See, when I told you guys you are going to write a story and you be the protagonist in that story. You remember? I said it in the working group. Write a story that you will act as the lead character.
Story is deep. Yeah, in Hollywood. In Hollywood, there are people who specialize in screenplay, like Maki. He specializes in stories. He has written a few screenplays that do not even make so much, but he's a story guru, especially in stories. They are story consultants. They give seminars like these. People pay. But if you want to give this kind of seminar in Nigeria, people won't come. I want to know about story. Maybe story. Not
You don't know anything. No.
That's right.
You learn everything.
You are the right hand. All right now, not be English.
You see what I'm doing now? I could stand here and be talking like this for the next 1 year, and I wouldn't have scratched the surface
Of story.
So, Olofa.
You need to come to my house and see paper
Books.
everywhere. Sometimes some years I'll just get up and say, no, I'll burn something. Because I told you, I learned something new yesterday. Story is deep. Story is deep. And finally, let me tell you something about the scene and close. Because all this we are talking about is built from the level of the scene. Like somebody said, sequences, the acts. The story is made up of acts, usually 3 acts, some 4. The act is made up of sequences. I won't go into that, it's a whole lot of talk. The sequences are made up of scenes. The scenes are made up of beats. If you are an actor and you pick up a script, you should know, even if one scene you have, you should know what are the beats in this scene. Provided the writer who wrote the script knew that he should deliver it in beats and clearly, and the beats should turn, the scene should turn. That is what I want you to take away. If you have never taken anything away, know that every scene in the story must turn. Any scene that any good, any important scene in the story that does not turn is not supposed to be enough.
What do you mean by tongue?
I am going to explain that. It's very important I mention this. I will have the moment I'm going to mention Screenplay. But I know that they will give you one scene for movie to act. A story, like I said earlier on, everything in this world is made up of the negative and the positive. The clash in the story is of the negative polarity and the positive. Even the battle for motor, get positive, get negative. Everything is like that. Your scene, the act, I said act 1, act 2. The act of the story is broken into scenes and 3 different segments. 2. The act of the story will start. An act will start from positive and will end with negative. If it starts with negative, that act must end with positive. Remember what I told you about the turning point? That at one turning point is when the fortune of the character reverses.
Yeah.
The turning point. It means that act started with positive. It turns to negative. If it started with negative,
It turns to positive.
the same thing with sequence. Whenever a sequence starts, ask, what is positive or negative about this beginning? If it starts with a positive, it must end with a negative. I also told you about the beginning of a story. If it starts with positive, it must end with negative. It's like holographic. It runs through. The same thing with the scene. If a scene starts with a positive charge, it must end with a negative charge. If it doesn't, that scene is flat. And anything that's flat in story and acting is bad. Yes, it's a straight line. A scene, a play, act, sequence of a story must be like this. If it's like this,
a wave.
yes, good, bad, good, bad. Life is like that. The river flows like that. Everything, the waves, everything in life, the wind, everything, the statics, everything in life is play music. See for the screen, you see. Even your voice, as I'm talking now, my voice is going up and down. Life is like that. Life is like that. So any scene that starts with a positive, hi darling, you're welcome. How was your day? Blah 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 blah. And at the end of the scene, the keys at the scene ends bad scene.
It's a flat scene.
Nothing has changed. It shouldn't be in that story. It's difficult to write. It's difficult. But this one thing. If that scene ends with a kiss, it means it has remained positive. It has to be double positive. If it started with negative and you must end it with a negative, it has to be double negative. For instance, I walk out of the door and stamp my foot. I'm very happy at the end of this discussion. I am floating out. Hey, we had a fun time. And I stamp my foot against something. That's bad. Negative feeling. I begin to limp. And I'm not looking where I'm going. I bump into somebody. double negative. I'm knocked down. And I spring up, Okada runs over me, and Okada man runs over me. Triple C. That's a good, fantastic story. Fantastic scene.
Yeah, it's from village. Now village people be that.
You see, that's how a story should be. So, yeah, let the negative progress. If you want to end it on a negative note. But if it must not end on a negative note, it doesn't have to be at the same level that it started.
Yes.
The same thing with the positive. It must end with the negative or double positive. The wife has come back. And the doctor's report comes to say, oh, we made a mistake all along. Or blah, 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 blah. Something that, you understand? That's double joy. You understand? So that is what I want to say about it. Now, how does this happen? Maybe the man and wife are arguing. Could be in the kitchen, could be in the bedroom. Could be about a very small thing. And it progresses. But go back and make sure that they did not start with that argument. If you are given a script, and you start with an argument and ends with an argument and it's not double, talk to the other character and then talk to the director. If it's informed, he will agree with you. Can we step back with this scene a little bit? And maybe, because she's coming back from work, I'm very angry, but I should play a kind of subtext, suppress my anger and say something nice, and then let it escalate. If he's an informed director,
who knows story?
Yes, who knows story. Even if he had forgotten, you say, because sometimes we forget. Even as a writer, sometimes that's why it's not good to hurry over scripts. When I go back to rewrite, to read the story and rewrite, I say, did I leave this scene
like this?
You understand? But there are scenes that maybe somebody drives past or just goes past and you just have to leave that scene like that. You don't have to insist. You know the kind of scenes I'm talking about. So there's a lot about scenes. The scene should have a product. The scene is like a full play. It reflects everything you have in a full play. The scene has a protagonist. The protagonist in the scene might not actually be the protagonist in the story.
Yes.
You understand? It could be the house girl. It could be the house girl and the family guy and son of the house who have this scene. This scene is about. So who dominates in the scene? Who is the protagonist of the game? That's the person the scene is about. At what point does the scene turn? So when they begin to argue, the exchanges become the beats. When they begin to argue, at some point something changed. That is a beat. Sometimes you can have up to 3 beats in a scene. It changes back to this and it changes back to that.
Interesting scene.
So that's an interesting scene. Okay, any other questions?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no other questions, let's put our hands together for our resource person, Ernest and Nelbon. Thank you so much for coming.
I just want to ask a question. I could